Hi there guys, this is James, and yeah, it's been a little while, hasn't it? It's been a while since I've uploaded anything to this YouTube channel, and it's been a while since I've really posted anything at all to these social media pages. So just to bring you guys up to speed, just in case you've forgotten why you subscribed to this channel all those years ago, or why you like this page, 6 years ago I released a game. The game was called Absent, and it was, I like to call it a graphic adventure game, and in the game, you know, you solve a bunch of puzzles, you talk to a bunch of characters, you collect items, you know, that sort of thing. The game took me 3 years to get done. I mean, it started as just kind of a solo project, and then I brought in more help. I brought in a composer, I brought in some voice actors and all of that, and then eventually released the game in 2013, so 6 years ago at this point. And then 2 years later, I got the chance to release the game on Steam, so that was amazing. Brought kind of a whole new audience to the game. And it's now been 4 years since that happened, and it's been 6 years since I released the game in the first place. And I mean, I did have to do a little bit of tweaking on it when I put the game on Steam, but aside from that, I haven't really turned my eye to this game in a really long time, so I thought what would be great to do for the 6-year anniversary of the release of Absent is to look at the game again, kind of with a fresh pair of eyes, and kind of critique my own work, if you want to put it that way. I mean, take a look at what I think holds up, what works, and take a look at what has aged very badly, because I'm sure a lot of it has, and, you know, just take a look at the things that I would absolutely do better nowadays. I mean, even, you know, just thinking back to the parts of the game that I can remember clearly, there's definitely a lot that I would change now, but there were some things that I was very happy with. So I decided I'm going to play the game on camera with a fresh pair of eyes, and I'm going to show you guys what's going on my screen up here. I'm also going to give you guys some factoids and bits of trivia about the game as we go along with it, and I'll pretty much just say it as it comes to mind. I'll try and go kind of at my own pace. If I have something, you know, significant to say about a certain element, I'll pause for a moment and, you know, just talk and reflect and things like that. I'm sure there's going to be times where I cringe, you know, at my own work, as I'm sure a lot of people do, looking back at their work from, you know, 5, 6, whatever years ago. But yeah, I don't have too much else to say, so let's begin. In 2010, I actually released the first third of this game, but it was kind of a primitive version of it. It had MIDI music, which I'd written myself, and it didn't have any voice acting work to it. But I, essentially, in between releasing that and releasing the full game, that's when I found the voice actors, and that's when I partnered up with a composer called Adam. And essentially, I think when I go through the game, I'll just tell you which tracks I composed in MIDI first of all, and which ones he did. I'd say a good 70% of the tracks I wrote in MIDI and then handed them to Adam, and then he kind of recomposed them as digital files and just made them sound, you know, so good. There will be points of this that I think really don't hold up. I think some of my skills might have improved since then, they might have not. Like, I remember this animation, yeah, that's supposed to be him throwing the pen and you just kind of go... This game, or at least the very beginning scenes of this game, were based on a short film that I made at college, so some of these scenes are literally recreations of the scenes from that short film. Ooh. I had about over 3,000 lines, I think, when you add, which you might think, what, really? 3,000 lines? But when you add up all of the variations of, you know, I can't use this object on this object, and look at this object, and there's lots of that in the game, and I had to record lines for every single one. And of course, the one thing that everybody brings up with this game is this stupid walk cycle, which now I know not to use templates. I used a template to animate Murray's walk cycle because I was hopeless at walking animations, as can be seen by the other walking animations in the game, because I tried to draw those myself and that failed. So I thought, no, the main character, I'm going to use a template for this one to get it right. And yeah, I guess the template was iffy as well, because it ended up, I think, looking more silly than some of the ones that I drew. Now we're kind of veering from what the short film was. The short film kind of comes to an end at this point. So the rest of this is just basically adventure game logic, adventure game puzzles, and yeah, we'll just see how much of it I can remember. This wasn't in the film, this was something that I added for the game. Kind of just to have another cool feature in the game, but also give a little bit more narrative purpose to Murray's visions. It's showing things that either have happened or are going to happen. So in a sense, it kind of gives you a clue for what's coming later in the game. I think coming up with this theme, I think I was just messing around on the piano one day, and I came up with this in the end. I will maintain, by the way, the version of the game that I released in 2010 had this exact same track, just in MIDI, and I will maintain that those notes, The Hunger Games later stole that and used those 4 notes in their trailers, but I will always maintain I came up with it first because I released that version in 2010 and that was before Hunger Games. Hunger Games ripped me off.
Eggy bread? Ugh.
Oh, eggy bread. Okay, I've got to explain that because that came up a few times. So we just filmed in our canteen of this college, and so we just got the natural background audio when we filmed in the canteen, and the very first shot that we used just happened to have someone in the background saying, "Just because you don't like eggy bread." And it was just the most random sentence, so we've made it an in-joke in several of our future projects. Can't explain it. I mean, you know, it's something that happened. When I ported the game over to Steam, I set up an achievement where you can offer all of the characters... Well, you could always offer all of the characters curly fries, but I set up an achievement where if you offer them to every single character you get, you get an achievement out of it. Kind of the nice thing about me being the main voice actor of this game was that I could... Or the main voice actor also being the scripter, would be I could just put in other people's random dialogue and then I can just say whatever I want around it and make it make sense.
Okay, you can have my battery.
But not all phone batteries are the same size. That's not helpful.
You're not much help, are you?
So yeah, I haven't changed that much.
It's still locked from that fire last Friday.
I don't think I ever explained in the game what causes that fire. I think actually when I first released it, it was a gas leak, and then I couldn't make sense of it, so I just changed it to a fire and hope nobody noticed. Okay, well another thing, we need to ask Eve about that homework. See, I'm remembering bits and pieces of what the puzzles are, but I don't remember the order of when they happen.
Kinda makes you just want to take a nap in the middle of the day.
Oh yeah, those lines, the student in the canteen said something like that as well, the student that was eating a lot. I think I put those lines in at kind of the last minute because I wanted to give a hint towards... Later on in the day, the student at the table just falls asleep. So I wanted to at least foreshadow that a little bit. Earlier on he says, I'm just going to finish up this food and take a little rest. That was to foreshadow this. Because you're supposed to pick something up from the table.
Let's see what we can see here. This Tabasco sauce might come in handy.
See, if he tried to pick that up while he was awake, he'd go, hey, no, don't do that. I need all my food. That was a good scream. When I first released this game, I actually did that scream voice over myself. There was no voice acting in the game, but I had a sound effect where it was just me going. I replaced it for the full game though because, you know, different voice actor. Oh, those were sound effects I had in the original version as well, and those are my whispers, by the way. They're just me going. The vision whispers, I wanted them to kind of be kind of hints, if you want, and guide you towards the answer. I don't think I went all the way with it, but there were some things. I think if you listen, sometimes you can hear them going, no, bad, and just things like that.
Hey, Crystal, how's life, doll? X.
I don't think this was something that I thought about when I first made the version of this game without the voiceover. I just wrote the lines in there as text talk lines. I didn't think that I'd actually have to voice them later on. I don't actually remember what to do now. I think that kitchen backdrop, by the way, was something that I enhanced, I guess, for when I released the full game. Because when I released it in 2010, it was just kind of weird, random shapes. But since we actually go into the kitchens later on in the game, I thought, yeah, I'll just reuse that same graphic there, like just to save it, just to make it look a little better. Absent, there we go. I tried to put in the title of the game as much as I could. Oh, that's a way to get hints, by the way, if you're stuck in the game. I thought a subtle way to do it would be talk to yourself in the mirror.
Presume you don't need this anymore.
You're talking backwards. Oh yeah, by the way, I should say, it was only the sidewalk cycle that I used the template for. The front and the back one I did myself. And you can probably tell because they don't look like he's walking, but more like he's just, I don't know, moon walking.
You've got to trust Lloyd, and we all have to trust each other.
Bit dramatic, really, isn't it?
Don't be stupid, Murray.
I could have made this sound a little bit more natural. Now it's Tuesday morning. That was the end of the release of the game in 2010. So this part here is the beginning of Chapter 2. From this point on, this is brand new for the 2013 release of the game. So we've got a few new locations unlocked now. I think you need to go in here to understand why you're going into the town, so... yeah.
And then the power just shut down, didn't it? All our work.
Don't know if you can tell, but that's my voice as well. I'm doing the voice of... I didn't come up with a name for that character, I just called him Gang Leader. Okay, so the idea is we need to turn the power in the building back on. First of all, to get these guys out of the way, and also to get Lloyd out of the lift because he is like dying in there or something. Yeah, that's right. So you need to get a job to be able to pay the electrician to turn on the power of the whole college. Not sure why this is Murray's responsibility, but again, I just kind of wanted to give something to do. And there is actually story development while this is going on because you do meet Chris, who we'll meet in a second.
I'm sure I was told about it somewhere in the interview. Just let me think.
That's relatable to me. That's what I was like in my first job. Should probably talk about the music in this town section here. I think this is the first track that was really the first track you've heard so far that was really a collaboration between myself and Adam, because I had made MIDI files of this, but they were kind of basic, like they were kind of placeholdery until we got something better. They all kind of followed the same structure. The outside theme is kind of minimalist, and then as we go into each of these individual places, they kind of get each a character of their own in the music. I'm looking for a book, I'm booking for a look, I'm looking for a look, I'm booking for a book. Looking, booking, book, look. Booking, looking, look, book.
Looking, booking, book, look. Booking, looking, look, book.
Very well, sir. Do you have a
I
library
don't know what I was
card?
thinking. So how do I have to get the library card from Chris? I guess I do. Maybe we were supposed to do that before. I remember the first third of this game more than I remember the rest of it because I guess the first third of the game I released twice. This puzzle actually changes a bit each time you play the game. It's kind of randomized. So I think sometimes it tells you that managers like relationships with their customers, sometimes it's managers like profit, and sometimes it's something else, I can't remember. But this time it's relationships with customers, so that's what we have to do on this puzzle.
Yes, what is it?
Oh, that manager is me as well. I did that voice. There was going to be a puzzle where you read what was in the book and then you had to answer a series of questions, but it was just a little bit of a detour, like to get the job, I mean, so it was just a little bit of a detour, so I just simplified it a bit. There was going to be more lines for the manager, and then it just ended up being a few, so I thought, oh, I'll just do these. This is all one screen, the whole town, and I essentially kind of had to keep all of it kind of contained. But I kind of like how you can go inside the buildings and it's not a new screen. Like, I thought that was quite cool, because I think this is the only time in the game I really did that. Would there just be a box of CVs and job application forms just left out in the open? In this game there is. It all happens very fast around here, doesn't it?
Thank God employment comes around so quickly here.
Oh yes, this! Here we go. That Reaper that just appeared there, I added that I think 2 days before I launched the game, just because I realised... I realised this is kind of a long exchange that doesn't really have much to do with anything. So I thought, we need another vision here, we need another hint. And it actually does fit in because later on in the game we see a Reaper actually does come looking for Chris. So I thought it would make sense to put it there. Okay, so the actress that's playing Danielle there, you might have actually seen her in a couple places since then. Most recently, she has actually been on the Amazon Prime advert, so you might have seen that. It's the advert that has the dog in it who's trying to warn their owner that the brother has fallen down the well. Yeah, that advert has been on TV an absolute ton in the last few months, and everyone just watches him take the keys and nobody says anything. This is kind of what you do in adventure games, by the way. You just pick up absolutely anything, whether it has owners or not. If it helps you solve the puzzle, then it helps you solve the puzzle. You need to have an absent drinking game and just take a shot every time Murray breaks the fourth wall. So the receptionist needs some help with getting another job. Oh yeah, and I told Spike here to just say, oh look, there is the student. I literally forgot I put him there. Yeah, I told Spike here to just say to give some random suggestions that don't help. So Spike here is just saying like, well, you could write a letter in your best handwriting. Well, you could write a book about the, just random things like that. Actually, this actress here that's playing Crystal, her name's Shannon. She's actually been in several things since we did Absent. Actually, most recently, she's been in the BBC One drama Years and Years. She played Lizzie in that. And I don't know, it's just really cool to see these actors that I worked with, years ago going on to do, mainstream stuff. It's really cool. Actually, the actress who played Eve, I've seen her in a few adverts as well since we did this game.
Is there anyone else the Reaper's
Yeah,
got?
Grant, right?
Well, until yesterday I was alone.
But then took
But
Grant.
now Lloyd's mate is there too.
Grant.
That's Grant, right?
Yeah, I remember the story. That's another thing. The lift GUI thing. That wouldn't have been a problem if I'd released them as separate episodes, but because it's all one game, maybe I should have made all of that look a little bit more consistent. One thing I wish I had done, I wish I had started the game off so the very first shot you see of the game is this shot here. Not with these characters in there, but this view of the outside of the college. And I say that because the very end of the game you see the outside of the college and it's the same shot. So it would have just been nice to have that, you know, consistency of kind of opening on the same shot as it ends on. Like, I like when that happens in films. If you give your character keys in an adventure game, they prove very, very useful. Oh yeah, this puzzle here was a nightmare to script, and I don't know if it even makes sense. I don't know really what people's take on this puzzle was. I don't know if people found it clever or if they found it over the top. I mean, I hope they found it clever, because, you know, a lot of work went into it. So we need to open up this cabinet, and we find the portable ladder. What you have to do here is you have to use the portable ladder to climb up it to get to the tiles on the ceiling, and you have to knock through the tiles and knock through the one where the portal is, and that helps Crystal's portal fall through, and that'll help Crystal fall into the kitchen. I don't know if anyone would have thought of that, but that is how... that is what I was going for with it. I hope it's intelligent, I hope it's not too out there. So we have to use those tools to knock through. See, this is where I think this puzzle might catch some people out, because I think some people would try and actually bust the tile that Crystal is standing up. Oh, and that's not even the one.
Well, that's not gonna help.
Oh yeah, I had Shannon record a different line for each one of these tile smashes. So she keeps saying, like, well, that's terrible, well, that's not helpful. I think there's 17 tiles, there's 17 variations of that line. The only way to hear them all is to try every single one.
Nope, still here. Good thing I can't stray too far from this portal.
There you go, and that's kind of what's supposed to do it. That's what's supposed to give you the hint. So that one, I think. The idea is that you're supposed to use logical thinking to work out, okay, so it's this many down, this many across, and I hope it came across. So there we go, that should be down.
Whoa!
Oh yeah, slightly different version of this scene. When I very first put this game together, I even drew up the artwork for this as well, so it existed in the game up to a point. I had a version of this scene where Steve's Reaper actually physically killed Lloyd at this point. And I took it out. It was very easy to take it out because I very quickly realised there was no way to redeem Steve after that. I feel like Murray should have probably been a little bit more, or a little bit less friendly towards Steve at this point. I mean, he literally abducted a person. See, this was something that I actually did. This is why it was very easy to take out Steve literally killing Lloyd at this point, because... or Steve's Reaper literally killing Lloyd at this point, because Murray would have been far too friendly with him after this, because the rest of the game was basically unaffected. So just by changing it to Lloyd being abducted kind of made that all a little bit easier, but I still don't think it comes across completely right, so I definitely would have fixed that if I'd had another shot at writing this game.
Well, you used to be good at making chat-up lines.
This was kind of subtext, but it is kind of implied that Murray and Eve did used to be together in some form. I don't go into it in the game. I prefer to leave that. I prefer to leave that kind of up to the player's interpretation of what actually happened and what went wrong. What are these two lines coming out of the sky here? Oh, you know what? That little jingle there as you leave the town, that I actually did that myself. That was something that I think I just forgot to give to Adam to orchestrate. But I did some tests of trying to convert the MIDI audio to digital audio myself, and that was one of the early ones that I did. So I think maybe because of time or whatever, I think I just decided to leave it in the game. This is a very weirdly perspective room. I think it's the low angle that does it. Oh, you'll notice, by the way, I put this shape in the game a few times. If you look on that poster back there, you can see kind of a triangle with a circle in the middle. That is supposed to look like the map of the Reaper's Circle. It's supposed to be like weird little foreshadowings to it. And you'll notice you see that shape outside of the college as well, outside of the front door. That's kind of on the. I think it's on the doormat actually. I think I was just kind of coming up with ways to put that shape into the game and just foreshadow it a little bit before it appears. Whether it came across, I don't know, but just know that it is in there. Oh yeah, there you go. You can sort of see it on the doormat.
What is it, Murray?
Did I ever do that effect a little bit of the voice of the characters behind the door? It's a little bit hard to hear. This is a track that I wrote myself in MIDI, but it was like nothing at all compared to what Adam did with it. Like, he just made it sound so good and so epic. I mean, to the point where I actually used it on the trailer. I kind of wish I could have written this in a way where it made a little bit more, or where it looked as if it made a little bit more sense why the friends were being so cagey about what they could and couldn't tell Murray. Because, I mean, if they were Murray's friends, they should have been able to, like, at least draw hints to what was going on, but because they told him nothing. Like, the idea behind that was supposed to be that there was a higher power in control of them, but I don't know if that came across. So, but just know that that's what was intended.
Hey! I've got questions!
I can imagine. Okay, so now we are in Chapter 3, so that scene that you just saw just now, if the game was going to be released in individual parts, that part just now was going to be the ending cliffhanger of Chapter 2, so I think it's quite safe to say that people wouldn't have necessarily known what to expect in this chapter, because we're, for the foreseeable future, going to be in completely new territory here. And there's that shape again! There you go, it's kind of a map of the... It's a map of the area, but that is what that shape is supposed to be. This may be one of my favourite tracks in the game, because I mean, Adam just made it sound so good, and this was... When I was kind of coming up with melodies on the piano for this game, this was one of the early ones that I came up with, and it kind of just kept coming up in different demo tracks that I recorded and tried out, and so in the end I think it kind of just became a natural fit to use in the game. I do remember these Reaper designs actually. I think I changed these designs about 3 times. They were very difficult sprites to come up with because they had to look like the original human versions of the characters, but they also couldn't look like completely different things altogether. So in the case of Eve, I mean, she looks similar enough to the human Eve, but at the same time she also looks like a creature. And the earlier versions of that sprite were basically just the human characters, just in black and white and wearing cloaks, and that wasn't going to cut it, so I tried a version as well which was... they all just basically looked like spectral creatures, and they just didn't have any of the human characteristics, so it was all about just finding that middle ground, and I think I got there in the end, but yeah, it was quite difficult. To the point, I think, even when Steve's Reaper form that appears in the trailer is different to the one that actually ended up in the game, just because I changed the sprite so much. There you go, so while they're distracted, we can go over and take that key.
Okay, I got it.
Oh wait, sorry, I think this is a time-based puzzle, so I've got to action this now. There you go. If I waited a few more seconds, Eve would have come out and taken the key back, and I would have had to have done that all over again. Well, what he has to do is go and get Chris, but there doesn't seem to be an option for that right now. And that is the Reaper from the beginning of the game, by the way. That's the one that abducted Crystal in the opening scene. So, I can't remember what we do here. I think I'm stumped for the first time. I know exactly what we have to do, I just can't remember how to do it. I think I tried a version of this scene as well where the room was yellow, like tinted yellow instead of tinted blue, and it looked alright, but I just kind of needed it to look consistent with the rooms I'd drawn already, so I just turned it to blue. Like, in some ways I kind of prefer the yellow one actually, but you know, just for consistency I went with this one.
Better understanding of your goals.
That was clearly me doing that voice, I guess I just needed to do a pickup. So we've got Steve's... No, I remember. We have to take it upstairs and get the Reaper God to change it into a different key.
Which room key number do you require?
I'm the Reaper God, but I'm also the receptionist here. So now that we've got the key, we can give this to Crystal. This was kind of a late addition as well. When you give Crystal this key, you actually have the ability to play as her for a little bit. So here we go, kind of a late decision, but we do play as Crystal a little bit more later on in the game as well. Pull the rope.
Whoops.
I think after this we're going to have a gigantic cutscene, and important thing in that cutscene is the music in it was completely composed by Adam. I just sent him the visuals of the timings of the scene and everything, and he just completely constructed the whole score himself based on that. I think I sent him some demo tracks of some melodies I liked, but other than that he basically had free reign with it, and this is one of the first examples in the game of that. That was a cute animation. Oh yeah, Reaper Crystal. This is something I forget about because this only happens for this one scene. Okay, so what Crystal is doing here is she is transferring her Reaper ability onto Murray. But she didn't kiss him, she didn't split the Reaper power with him, she literally just sent it across. But Crystal, by doing that, now has nothing left. So Crystal has been Thanos. I kind of had to come up with a succinct way to explain the story, so... I thought literally putting a diagram in the game, that'll make things easier. It really is jarring how I do some of these lines and the rest of them are Matt. I think I kind of thought maybe I could get away with dubbing them in myself because I just have to do a deep gruff voice and like no one will notice. So this is last Friday. So what Crystal's actually doing now that she's finished drawing the image of Murray as the Reaper is she's drawing a picture of Steve, but she only got halfway through it. So later on Murray actually finishes the drawing and turns it into Chris, so that's why Chris appears in the real world. So Chris is essentially a drawing come to life. That's all he is, that's all he, you know, ever was. I think this is the part I remember the least because this was, I think, the last part of the game that I worked on. Oh yeah, I think I tried to do a running gag with this plant pot where it essentially just grows very, very fast. So on Monday it's grown a little bit, and on Tuesday it's grown completely, and now on Friday you can't see it at all. I mean, I don't know, maybe it wasn't that good a joke, but I just thought it was just a fun thing that you might notice if you keep an eye open. We're fairly limited on where we can turn Murray into a Reaper, aren't we? I think we can do it in the swamp because nobody's watching. So here we go, let's give this a try. Hey, there we go. I think Murray actually being a Reaper was a late idea as well. This was certainly never an idea that I had when I was doing the short film. But I really just thought for a game mechanic it might be quite cool to have Murray sometimes be human and sometimes not. In this final part. Oh yeah, so we have to send him into the canteen and then we set him on the way to being where he is on the Monday.
Hey, Hugh, look behind you! What? What is it?
Matt recorded a few lines for that. I think I told him to improv that. And he kind of just came back with a few variations of, oh, what is it? Is it a bug? Like, oh, what is it? Is it a dinner lady? I think it was one of them. And I left them all in the game. It's all random. So when you go back and try that option again, he'll probably say something different. Okay, so we need to turn into a Reaper and glide through that barrier, and then we can do that. I think I just realised on putting together all of the geometry of the college together, I realised that the first floor corridor basically would overlook the kitchens. So I thought, let's just put a window there. It was the same when I was mapping out the second floor corridor as well. I just realised that directly underneath would be the canteen, so I thought, yeah, why don't we just have a balcony that overlooks the canteen? I mean, it made it look a little bit more visually interesting, so I thought, why not? Oh wow, that is the worst walk cycle yet. Thankfully, you only see it once. Oh wow, that front one wasn't much better. So we've got the bag now. Why do we need... Oh yeah, there's a pen in it. So let's use the pen on the pad and... Okay, this was another cutscene where I gave Adam free reign on what to do with the music. Again, I sent him a video with all of the timings in it. Well, I essentially sent him the scene just without the music in it, and he wrote around it. Yeah, this is what I like to call the cutscene where everybody gets put in their place. So everyone is essentially where they're supposed to be, so when the game began, this is where everybody went. So Steve is in his place because this is where he was in the opening cutscene of the game, and Lloyd and Grant are in their place because they were in that scene as well. Oh, and also the student is talking to the dinner lady, and if you actually go back to the opening cutscene, he was there in that scene as well. And now Chris is being sent to apply for the job at Wonders, because that's where he is later in the game. And Danielle's in the swamp, so everything really is dropping into place. Another weird walk cycle. Close-up animation. This doesn't happen much in this game. I think I did all of these kind of towards the end. There you go, so Murray, because Murray's just transferred his Reaper powers, he didn't share them. They've been transferred across to Danielle, so she's now the Reaper, and Murray is now a pile of dust, just like Crystal was earlier on. Oh, you know what? I toyed around with a version of the opening cutscene of the game starting off here. And the whole thing was kind of a reflection of Murray telling you everything he's gone through so far. I didn't go that route in the end, obviously, but that was something that I did kind of attempt. I intentionally decided not to have music in this scene, by the way. Oh, and here's Crystal. And because the notepad is magical, they may be able to draw their escape. And again, the music in this one as well, this was one that I gave to Adam, and he had free reign over Well, he was bound to my timings, but he had free reign over the actual music itself. I do actually like this as a final shot of the game, really. I like the sun setting in the background, and I like that we kind of do end in sort of the same location as where we started, and we do end in a location that kind of encompasses the whole game. And this track is actually a reprise of the first bit of gameplay in the game, which was when you're on the street. So I thought it would be good to just kind of have the game sort of come full circle a little bit here. Again, would have been nice. I really wish I could have started off the game with this shot and ended it with this shot as well, but I wasn't really thinking of that at the time. That is absent. So the game came out 6 years ago today, and in a lot of ways I am still happy with it. There's definitely a lot of things that, like I say, I would have improved. If I'd had a bit more time, I probably would have done, and maybe if I'd had a little bit more experience, I would have done as well. But I mean, other areas, I mean, the voice actors, can't fault them at all. I thought they did absolutely fantastic jobs, and, you know, Adam, the composer who worked on this, I wrote a good chunk of the melodies, but Adam made them sound fantastic. I couldn't make them sound fantastic. Essentially, other people's inputs, I have absolutely nothing to critique whatsoever, but, you know, the work that I've done, even though I was happy with it when it came out, there's definitely things that I would like to amend, and particularly from, you know, a visuals and a writing point of view, there's definitely some parts I would have rewritten to make it even just more tonally correct, really. Because, I mean, there's times where I feel like I don't feel like I explain the story in the best possible way, and there are some exchanges that probably are a little bit derivative and things like that. But that's something that, you know, it comes with experience. It's something that comes with, you know, I'm glad that I did this game, because this did teach me a lot about this sort of thing. And I know that if I did work on future projects, I would absolutely take those things into account. It's a project of mine that I'm very happy to say that I worked on, and I would have loved the ability to carry this on. I mean, the main reason I didn't was just because of time, to be honest. I just completely ran out of time to make Absent 2, or just really any future games. I had another game in mind, at least 2 more games in mind, actually, and for whatever reason they just couldn't get off the ground the way I wanted them to. But sometimes I do think it is nice to just take a look at your work, your old work from years ago, and just reflect on it and see how far you've come, and to just see how much you've improved and how much you've learnt since working on it. So I don't think there's really too much else to say. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I mean, like I said, I've kind of edited it to give you the highlights of it, because there was kind of a lot of waffle in between, and there was a lot of bits where it was just me trying to focus on the game and remember what this game was all about. But, you know, I enjoyed looking at it again. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative and entertaining and everything. And yeah, I think we'll leave it there. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. And whether you guys knew about this game years ago when I launched it, or whether the game is brand new to you, I hope you check it out. I hope you find some things to be, you know, entertained by. I mean, take it for what it is. I mean, you know, like I said, it's dated in many areas, but it's something that I'm definitely happy to have worked on. So there we go, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you soon.